I never met Stan Lee in person, and I haven't. I wouldn't say that I'm like a huge Marvel fan. I mean, I've collected some of the cards like when I was super young and watched a couple of shows here and there, but I wouldn't say that I'm like, this super diehard Marvel fan, at least not until the movies came out. So some would say, oh, well, you're only a fan because of the MCU and so on and so forth. When he passed, or when I found out that he passed earlier this week, I thought to myself, well, yeah, I mean, I never like knew him, or did he really have a direct influence on me? And I thought about it, and I thought about just how one guy and as well as other people around him and other people that have influenced the world. I don't know. I guess I feel like Stan Lee has touched he touched on something, and he caused a ripple that turned into a wave that didn't just define a generation. This is what he did as just a mere comic book person. He did so much to influence everybody. Everyone has been touched by what he's done in some degree, whether it was reading the comics, watching the movies, whether it was feeling inspired to start up something on their own or become some sort of creative talent. He touched on that in some small way. And to that, I think of him and I'm like, wow. Not only did he live a really full life, but he helped to define countless others. And I think that's really something to celebrate. So that was a thing. Hey everyone, it is November 16th, 2018. This is Warcraft Weekly. Today's episode is brought to you by Loader, the puppy whisperer. Ooh. Bob is over in Orgrimmar, wandering the streets, wondering what the heck is going on. There's puppies, they're freaking everywhere, and it's all thanks to the WoW 14th anniversary gift, this toy that lets everything look like puppies. So I suppose I should start with that. WoW is celebrating the 14th year anniversary with a slew of goodies and other repeatable content that, well, a lot of it that we've seen before already. World bosses are available over in Ashara and the Blasted Lands, and at some location. It just depends on who happens to be active at the time. There's an experience buff. That totally doesn't matter because the patch that comes out next month is going to severely reduce the level requirements of many lower levels in all the legacy zones, but at least you still get the rep gain. So for those of you who are still trying to catch up, check your mailbox. It'll also refer you to where to go depending on your faction as to where to find the vendor that sells some of this cool stuff, as well as start some of the dailies that will get you extra time walking badges, and as well as tell you which dragon to kill. This event is going to go on for the next couple weeks, so in the meantime, you'll be able to enjoy puppies everywhere. From the puppy banshee queen to players looking like puppies to falling asleep puppies. The tooltip might not say anything yet, but for all I know, by the time I get this recording out there, we're probably going to see a tweet that says, unfortunately, this toy is only going to be seasonal, which will totally bum me out. But that's how it goes. So in the meantime, I'm just going to get as much footage as I can of having puppies everywhere. Can you tell that I'm a fan of this particular celebration? And as a quick plug, I want to, it's a couple days early, but I want to celebrate 11 years of my guild, Prisoners of Warcraft. 11 years of wiping and goofing off and struggling. Happy 11th, folks. The WoW Classic demo has wrapped up, and the die-hard fans of Classic WoW are all fired up, and, well, they're also a little bummed out that the demo's over. I think the demo delivered on like 90-something% of Blizzard's promise that they wanted to bring us a genuine recreation of WoW. I still feel a little bit butthurt that the demo was limited enough that I couldn't just make an enchanting one and otherwise just devastate everything in the landscape. And otherwise, I would have won that PvP tournament that Tips Out did. I would have won that if I had that damn wand. Oh well, with the demo over, the excitement for World of Warcraft in general is, I would say, at a pretty good high. You may have critiques about the current game. You might be sad that you're not able to roll as a Blood Elf Paladin, or have a Worgen, or be able to play as whatever class that you could play now that you couldn't play in Classic. But I don't know, maybe I'm just gushing. Maybe the full Blizzard shill in me is like, totally coming out, but I'm just excited to see the future of WoW in general. What's going to happen in the next patch? What kind of feigned defense am I going to put up for Sylvanas Windrunner? Is there in fact going to be a progressive classic realm from vanilla to BC to Lich King to, of course, Cataclysm? Oh boy. In other recent news revolving the live version of the game, there are a couple of big nerfs that happened over on the Mythic Plus and the raiding side of the game. Mythrax, the second to the last boss of the Uldir raid, has this mechanic where he spawns an orb and a circle around certain players, and anyone around them will be mind controlled, including the player that was targeted. It really sucks. It turns out that the mechanic is going to be nerfed pretty heavily. Instead of targeting any random player, except for tanks, it's no longer going to target melee at all. It's only going to target the ranged suckers. On the Mythic Plus side of things, Explosive is an affix where, during combat with any active NPCs or any enemies, a bomb will spawn, and you gotta destroy it, otherwise it's gonna jack up your team. The nerf here is that the Explosive will only have half the health that it used to, and if mobs are crowd controlled, those mobs won't be selected to be a possible explosive candidate. The nerf to Explosive seems to be both welcome and wanted, especially because this week is also teaming. That's the affix where extra mobs spawn during the Mythic Plus run. This normally wouldn't be something that I'd talk about if not for the multiple ways that Blizzard is passively nerfing content over time during a given tier. That's not a bad thing at all. It's a simple design mechanic that Blizzard has iterated and reiterated over time, whether it was eventually getting Valor and Justice badges over a period of time, or the weekly buff that you would get from Icecrown Citadel. There were dampening kind of auras that were applied to raids that's reduced mob HP and damage done by a certain amount. In Legion, there were the artifacts and concordance that would slowly buff our characters up pretty much every week. Right now in BFA, we have that re-origination array, and still we have these targeted nerfs. Now keep in mind that the Hall of Fame is complete. Both Horde and Alliance have had 100 guilds complete Mythic Gahoon, and now cross-realm raiding is available. So this seems to be a kind of push to allow a little bit more leeway for random-ish kinds of more puggy levels of Mythic raid teams to be able to complete content. Overall, I think this is a good thing, but I totally get it if there are mixed feelings among certain Mythic raid teams that are like, oh, we're so close to getting Mythrax down, we just need to get past this one mechanic and we'll be okay. So having the content be nerfed right before their eyes, I'm sure that gives kind of a sinking feeling or a breath of relief. It's like, oh my god, thank goodness they put in this nerf, now we can push forward. It's an interesting design philosophy from Blizzard, especially in the face of these multiple difficulties we already have. LFR, normal, heroic, mythic. This very specific and targeted nerf, I would say, is for a certain kind of player, and in this case, it's the cross-realm mythic kind of raider. So if that is the case, oh, cool. That's some interesting food for thought. The Tides of Vengeance 8.1 PTR is still steaming along with a new build this week. It's a little bit less than a month till the projected launch date of the patch, which is December 11th. But we're still seeing a bunch of new stuff like Island Adventure Transmog, and yeah, I say Island Adventure. I don't know, like Island Expedition just doesn't fly with me. Why am I talking about this? Anyway, there is a bunch of new cosmetics, new music, and new cutscenes, of course. These are pretty early, especially considering that one of them doesn't have any visuals at all, and the other one, well, this isn't really a spoiler, but take a look.
We are Kaldori!
You see, this is why some people say the Horde are the more interesting faction. This is all in jest, it's just a joke, but imagine during the opening cinematic for this expansion that Sylvanas does a twirly thing, and then she does her whole "Yes, War Chief, I feel very excited right now." Yay! There's another cutscene that was unearthed recently. This one is more Horde-centric. That's, without getting into too much spoilers, it's another thing that gets fellow Horde leaders in an outrage over Sylvanas. You know, lots of brow furring, like, we're really upset about this, War Chief. What are your orders? But it goes into the idea of what happens when a Forsaken is raised. Are they put under Sylvanas' thrall? I meant to use that word on purpose, yes. Like, Are they risen under her control, or is there some sort of separate process that's involved? And in this cinematic, we find out that yes, there is definitely a process involved. So while this doesn't do anything to prove or disprove that those who are risen by the Valkyr or those Forsaken who rise under Sylvanas have some sort of irrational loyalty to her, we can still at the very least say that being risen from death kind of fucks with your head, right? I think that Blizzard's writers, who are people that people love to just take a dump on, they're trying to take the whole idea of being risen as a Forsaken at a level that normal people just don't understand. I mean, think about some of the worst atrocities that have happened throughout human history, whether it was genocides or ethnic cleansings, or even on a more personal level, domestic violence or rape. All of these are super touchy subjects, and please, let's not get into conversations about freaking rape and genocide, but I'm just trying to frame the idea of take all of these terrible things and then compare it to being forcefully risen from the dead. Your body's in a state of rot. You have no idea if there's even anything inside your skull anymore, and yet you're still walking and talking all gutter speak. Ugh. How do you feel if you even get past the idea of, yeah, I guess I'll stay in this state of undeath, sure, but what is your outlook on the world now, knowing that your final rest has been denied from you? And let's not even get into the idea of the Scourge, who were killed, risen, and mind controlled. Remember, Sylvanas was a part of it, so that really messes with your head, right? So what we're seeing here, and I guess I'm pretty much spoiling this at this point just without naming too many names, but Sylvanas is trying to practice this, raising someone from the dead and controlling them on top of that. That's pretty messed up. If you do happen to watch that cutscene, and I'll put the Wowhead link below, even I, the great horde cuck, as many call me, I was listening and I was like, ugh, this is, dude, this is bad, man. This is really bad. The last Warcraft thing to talk about today has to do with War Mode, and some of the conversations that have been going around asserting that War Mode is an absolute failure. There are critiques that I have about War Mode and questions like flying in War Mode, and one of the arguments is that because of the incentive buff, you know, the ability to get a little bit more XP and more resources or whatnot, that's caused the Horde to pretty much overpower the Alliance in War Mode. Blizzard explained in a recent statement that there were hotfixes that were put in place that were designed to help their invisible hand, or they called it, I think, a shard manager, to make it easier or to streamline the process that evened out balance between these PvP shards. I find it weird and I guess unnatural to see this invisible hand of Blizzard that is trying to dictate or that is trying to promote the whole play nice, play fair sort of thing. But here's a thought. The whole play nice, play fair pillar of Blizzard is something that I think that they believe in. I think that they definitely intend to have players participate fairly. I think one of the problems, though, and this cuts into many different arguments that we've seen all throughout World of Warcraft's history, is that in this case, they're trying to do it for us. Why is it that we as players are being shuffled around by Blizzard systems? If anything, it's Blizzard that's forcing us to play, to be balanced rather than for us to respond accordingly. Once upon a time, before the cross-realm zones and the sharding and the war mode, who's the what's-its, there was Terran Mill and South Shore, where things escalated. Small fights became big fights, became bigger fights, alts switched to mains, and you got really big pitched battles on certain realms, and on certain other realms, you didn't really get that because one faction did in fact dominate the other. Sometimes you'll lose. I understand that there are good intentions from Blizzard when it comes to wanting to achieve relative balance between the factions out in the open world, but sometimes you gotta lose, and I think some of the players that are making these arguments against War Mode, I think part of it, and remember, this is me not speaking for them, I'm just trying to understand them, but I think part of it comes from their expectation that Blizzard can fix it for them rather than just have it fix it themselves. One of Blizzard's possible solutions in the upcoming patch is to provide some sort of incentive for the underrepresented faction, aka the Alliance, sense. But I still see some great potential in war mode if Blizzard is in fact going to go all in with this in future expansions. I don't see a great solution coming up anytime soon. At the very least, 8.2 might give us something cool. 8.1 is going to give us the incursions that will cause an intersect between the two factions when they're in war mode, so that might be kind of cool, but I'm trying to think even further down the line in future expansions where in war mode there might be some sort of location that a certain faction can hold on to, and that's going to give them... Think of it like Wintergrass, but it's almost an always active thing. Imagine some sort of big base that you pour resources or bodies into and you defend it, and during that time you might get some sort of buff that slowly decays over time, so that way eventually the other faction can take it over, something like that. But as for forcing the numbers together via sharding, I don't know, I'm still not quite sure how I feel about that, especially as someone who doesn't participate in PvP as actively as some of you might. Alright, so breaking away from World of Warcraft stuff for a little bit, I just want to introduce a thought, and it's going to be a very incomplete thought, but it's mostly for the sake of starting some conversation with you folks at home and on the toilet. But I would love to know what you folks think these days of the current gaming culture, or the current fan culture that we see on the internet. And yesterday over a stream, I called it the culture of outrage. I can already tell that this isn't going to come off well because I am outraging over outrage. I'm complaining over complainers. Ooh. But this is the observation that I've made over the past, especially a couple months. Things have just seemed a little bit more volatile in the space that I inhabit here on the internet. When it comes to games or movies or other forms of entertainment that have very legitimate criticisms, it feels like they're being hyper sensationalized by the internet, by this mob mentality that super enhances these otherwise good critiques and turns it into this frothing rage that it's hard to, I don't know, it's hard to take seriously, but at the same time you have to take it seriously because they're being so loud about it. But I'm asking myself, and I want to ask you, how effective is that? I get that there are critiques that people have, and that there are things that people want, and they're not being fulfilled. More often than not, we, the little guy, we're not being listened to by big bad corporation person. We're small, we're little, but banded together with a common cause, we can promote change, rise up, and all that. But I've been observing that the message is being eclipsed by the anger that was carrying it along in the first place. We hear the call for change, but a more extremist faction within this message calls for heads on spikes, pretty much. And as someone who is at least familiar with others who work inside the industry, hearing stuff like that isn't exactly motivating. But I'm just going to stop right there, and I would love to hear your thoughts on the matter. So let's move on to some free talk, folks. You might have noticed a little bit of a change. There's been a little bit something missing in today's weekly. I'm not going to say what it is because maybe you didn't notice, but I want to hear your thoughts on it. Since we're in the little free talk space, I want to also announce that the contest that I started last week, I'm going to extend that another week, but I'm also going to add another Whomper to it. So if you have not entered yet, you just need to type a little something in the comment below. So over this coming weekend, I am going to try and reach out to YouTubers, content creators, and such, because I've been saying numerous times that I've been wanting to try and bring back my little featurettes on content creators during these weeklies, just to spice things up and to make the weekly a really cool place to visit every Friday. I have a very, very outdated list, unfortunately. It could use some freshening up. So if you know of anyone who you think should be featured as a content creator here on this show, just let me know in a comment below. The plan is to do an interview with said content creator, and then over here on the weekly, I'll do a quick profile on them, preview just a couple seconds from these interviews, and then provide a link to the full interview, which will have been published probably sometime earlier in the week. So I really hope to get that off the ground in the next couple of weeks. I'm going to keep myself really, really busy. So I'm going to try to not play Fallout 76. Oh my god, I'm having fun. Save me. And as one more crack at this, the whole culture of outrage sort of thing, like I said, I think Fallout 76 is pretty fun. It's flawed, there are bugs, there are a little bit of problems with it, but it's still Fallout to me. I've seen the salt and the hate and the bitterness over, oh my god, it's different, it's online, it's terrible, it's going to be terrible. So I will stand behind this following statement. I don't believe that a movie or an entertainment company or a game studio, that they should feel afraid to try something new. I do not think that they should be afraid to fail. Listening to the audience, providing feedback, and maintaining professionalism is extremely important, especially in the optics of today. Giving in to the audience is different. We are fans, and to the studios, that needs to absolutely be respected. I also think we need to understand that developers are also fans. That's the final food for thought of the day, and let's wrap it up. I want to thank all of you for joining me today, and another thanks for your patience as I'm still trying to fiddle with this weekly format. Change is a little bit scary, but like I said, it's not something that I should be afraid of. I think I should be able to respond and react to the viewers, but at the same time still stick to what it is that makes this channel what it is. Oh, and by the way, since you made it to the end, the phrase that you should be putting in is hell yeah! So put that in a comment below and wait next week, which is Thanksgiving. Crap. Okay, so I'm gonna do 3 Whompers. Yeah, I'm gonna announce 3 winners now. So, yeah, contest even longer. Damn it. Tune in next week for something very, very cringy between the Zakan and Sourfang in 8.1. It's a little bit of speculation in the form of an audio drama. It's going to be really awkward. Support me as a patron if you're really into it. Check out the shirts and other stuff that I have in the store. And otherwise, hit the like thing over there. Or hit the subscribe thing somewhere else so I can keep giving you more of this and all things Warcraft. I'll see you next week. Until then, stay safe, stay happy, and stay breezy.